One night, a group of arrogant men, led by an equally arrogant man named Governor Quan, finds a buried gigantic Buddha head whose eyes are covered by an ancient cloth with unknown letters. But instead of taking caution about its origin or what the letters meant, the governor quickly orders the archaeologists to remove the cloth from the Buddha's eyes and clean the statue. They intend to install the statue in their county of Jinyanggun and make a tourist attraction out of it, thereby boosting their economy, and so Governor Quan's request is quickly followed. The person that is tasked with cleaning the statue is a man named Bang. Upon receiving his salary from his boss, Bang admires the Buddha statue, looking at it directly into its eyes. After some time has passed, a great researcher in Buddhist studies named Jung is approached by two monks about a newly unearthed Buddha statue. The two monks, Ju and Sung, ask for Jung's help because they saw that specific Buddha statue being discussed in one of Jung's magazines about numerous mysteries and conspiracy theories. They also present some pictures of the recently unearthed statue whose eyes are covered by an ancient cloth with writings. They think that it is cursed. Jung immediately recognizes that the writings are in Tibetan, thereby proving that he is an expert. But upon hearing that the monks want his help, Jung tells the monks that he will only help them if they can give him money since he is working as a freelancer. Although Jung's professor Min tells him not to rip off the monks nevertheless accept Jung's request for payment. Since they cannot provide money for now, they give Jung their business card instead to call them if anything interesting comes up. They then take their leave. Afterward, Min tells Jung that he needs to be more serious in his life because he is a talented researcher. If he wants, he can still be hired by many companies. But Jung thinks that this is nonsensical advice. Meanwhile, it starts to rain around the area. However, it is an unusual kind of rain because the water is dark and dirty. At this point, Jung is already settled in his home and researching the writings on the accursed Buddha statue. However, despite his extensive knowledge of the topic, he still doesn't know what the words mean. As such, he contacts another expert in Buddhist research named Lee who has published a book about the topic. Aside from this, they are also a couple who lost their daughter some time ago due to being hit by a truck. Back then, Jung was supposed to pick up their daughter from school. However, he couldn't come due to work. The task fell on Lee who, despite attending a seminar, still went and picked up her daughter. However, she arrived too late as she saw her daughter cross the road just as the pedestrian signal had changed. Even now, their relationship is still strained due to the event. Upon receiving the email, Lee tries to translate the words from the Buddha statue. Later that night, despite the heavy rain, the worker Bang goes to a local bar where he always eats and drinks. However, he is noticeably having a problem with his eyes as he repeatedly blinks at a rapid pace. Finally, he asks the bar owner if he can use the bathroom, quickly heading there without hesitation. Inside the bathroom, Bang attempts to wash the irritation from his eyes. All of a sudden, he sees an image of his elderly father whom he hates behind him, immediately asking for his money. Bang quickly escapes from the bathroom, but his eyes are now foggy and almost blind. As a result, he slips and falls to the ground in a panicked daze. The bar owner tries to help him, but Bang only sees a disturbing mirage of his devious father, prompting him to unknowingly beat the bar owner. Because of this incident, the presence of the chief of police named Han is immediately requested at the police station. Han is a mother of a rebellious young man named Du Kyung who has a strained relationship with his mother. After receiving the call, Han immediately leaves the house despite the falling rain. On the way there, she almost gets caught in an accident after a taxi driver, who is having the same symptoms as Bang, tries to collide with Han's car. Right after this, Han arrives at the police station. Before she enters, she sees the strange skull-like pattern on the ice that fell on her windshield earlier. Inside the police station, she sees the handcuffed Bang. Since she knows Bang is a soft-hearted person, she wonders why the policeman arrested him. Suddenly, Bang screams at Han's face, seeing her in his father's image. He then convulses as his mouth starts to foam. Han tries to approach him, but he charges right at her even though he is handcuffed. At this point, Bang is acting like a zombie because even though the flesh in his handcuffed arm is being torn apart, he still charges toward the police officer. Han restrains him and orders the policeman to call an ambulance. The following day, the townspeople gather at the county office to know what to do regarding the black rain that fell yesterday. Lee's neighbor informs her about this, but she tells her neighbor that she will not go. However, due to the woman's persistence, Lee has no choice but to go with her. Arriving there, the first thing that Lee notices is the Buddha imprinted on a banner. According to her neighbor, the Buddha is their mascot. Upon entering the building, she is shocked to see the giant Buddha statue. Meanwhile, a delinquent named Kwak has just gotten out of prison. Due to his bad reputation, his mother hates and disowns him, but Kwak doesn't care. He also holds a grudge against his former friend, Du Kyung. In the past, they used to be like brothers, with Kwak teaching Do-kyung to protect himself, as well as telling him about his troubled life. However, one fateful night, Kwak, Do-kyung, and their buddies were being chased by Han on the road. Kwak and Do-kyung's motorcycle eventually crashed on the roadside, prompting them to run away. But since Kwak didn't know that Han is Do-kyung's mother, he attacked her, wounding her on her wrist. Because of this incident, Kwak is later arrested and put in jail, thereby destroying their friendship. As such, he tells his comrades to gather at the county office so that they can exact their revenge. And so, Kwak and his henchmen conduct an ambush toward Do-kyung while he is in the bathroom, proceeding to beat him up mischievously. After a thorough beating is delivered by his comrades, Kwak beats Do-kyung as well, threatening him that he will hurt his mother as well. But Do-kyung is unafraid of him. Instead of cowering in fear, he just stands up and leaves. Meanwhile, the monks are still busy deciphering the letters found on the Buddha statue's blindfold. One of them, Ju, has been called by the head monk into his office. There, the head monk tells him to stop obsessing about the accursed Buddha statue because it is affecting other Buddhist monks' image. He also restricts Ju from going back to the county. Although he does not agree with the head monk, Ju has no choice but to accept his orders. Later, Ju hears some monks screaming. After seeing them frantically running away from the temple, he immediately rushes inside. Inside the temple, he sees the horrible sight of one of the goddesses crying in blood, which is a bad omen. At this point, there is already commotion brewing inside the county station due to people wanting compensation for their ruined crops due to the black rain. Right after gazing at the Buddha's eyes, Lee walks inside the building's auditorium and sees the clamoring people. Amidst the commotion, Lee sees a familiar man, the truck driver who accidentally hit her daughter in the past. Shocked by his appearance, Lee quickly retreats to the bathroom and calls Jung to ask if the driver was already out of prison. The call suddenly drops, prompting Jung to feel worried. Currently, he is stuck in his car outside the county because the vehicle is not starting at all. But upon trying again, invoking his daughter's spirit, the car miraculously starts again. Later on, Governor Kwon and his staff finally arrive at the building to address the townspeople. He tells them not to worry about the black rain too much because it is not harmful at all. Instead, the governor wants them to prepare for the unveiling of their new tourist attraction. All of a sudden, a foggy-eyed farmer holding a sickle enters and screams at the people. When one of the people tries to calm him down, the farmer strikes his neck with the sickle. In an instant, the whole crowd panics and runs away from the scene. During this, Lee sees the truck driver again, although it is revealed to be just her hallucination. This means that the Buddha's curse is slowly taking effect on her due to looking at its eyes earlier. As she and the others run outside the building, a man from the top jumps toward a car below. In just a short time, all hell breaks loose as foggy-eyed individuals kill anyone in their sight. Meanwhile, Do-kyung's mother, Han, is checking on Bang's condition with his mother beside him. The elderly woman thanks Han profusely for aiding her son. The two women then head to the doctor's office to learn about Bang's condition. They are surprised that Bang is healthy and that his alcohol level is too low to cause violence. However, the doctor points out that the number of Bang's glutamate, a naturally occurring chemical in the body, is excessive, which would lead to memory loss and hallucinations. Luckily, Bang survives due to Han's quick thinking of calling an ambulance. Afterward, Han receives a call, telling her to come to the county immediately, but due to the weak signal, the call cuts off instantly. Back to the county, the pandemonium continues. Although it is a horrible thing to see, Kwak is joyful to witness such a chaotic event. As such, he runs immediately down to the ground, taking the opportunity to legally beat up and kill people as he pleases. Because it is turning into a bloodbath, the people retreat once again back inside the building. A man grabs Lee and drags her back inside. But as she is about to enter the building again, she sees Do-kyung in trouble. She doesn't hesitate to help him even though they do not know each other. They then proceed together inside the building where Do-kyung thanks her for helping. The last one to enter is Kwak, who beats up a zombified person before entering the county station. Due to his charismatic character, Kwak quickly tells the survivors to barricade the entryway. He is amused with how easy they are to order around. At this point, Lee suffers from a vivid hallucination about going back to her house and being with her daughter while also hiding from the truck driver. As this happens, all of the survivors receive a disaster alert from their phones that designates their area as dangerous. They also watch the news on the big television inside the building. The reporter states that the Jinyang gun is being blocked due to the possibly contaminated black rain that has an infectious virus in it. Here, the deceptive Kwak decides to take control once again by telling everyone that the rain makes everyone insane by coming in contact with it. As such, he thinks they should kill everyone infected by the black rain. At this point, exhausted by her vivid hallucinations, Lee collapses to the floor. Kwak takes this opportunity to kill Lee, but Do-kyung protects her even if Kwak is an overpowering individual. Meanwhile, Jung has just reached the outskirts of the county where he finds a newly erected military roadblock. Like others wanting to enter, Jung questions the soldiers for not allowing them to pass. Han, who had just come from the hospital outside of the county, is also stuck at this roadblock. She tells the soldier that she is the police chief of the area, but she is still not granted passage. Worried about the love of his life, Jung calls Lee's phone. The ringing of the phone halts the fight between Kwak and Do-kyung. Do-kyung picks it up and briefly talks to Jung, telling him that Lee is sick. But before Jung can inquire further, the phone is immediately passed to the governor while Jung's phone is taken by Han, who was nearby during the call. Being the police chief of the county, Han promises that she will come to the county office as soon as she can. With this, the townspeople feel relieved because they will be finally saved. However, Kwak doesn't believe that help will come at all. Due to his belief that the black rain is infused with a virus, Kwak orders everyone to round up all of the people who have come in contact with the rain. As such, many individuals are unfairly tied up, including the weakened Lee. Although he is the governor, Kwon has neither the power nor the charisma to disagree with the intimidating Kwak. For safe measure, Kwak instructs one of his goons to guard the tied-up individuals. Even though he is hesitant, he still follows Kwak's orders. Meanwhile, because they both need to enter the county no matter what, Jung and Han decide to team up and take another road toward their town. Luckily, because it hasn't been used in a long time, there is no roadblock for this particular way. After driving for some time, they stop near a house so that Jung can examine the water left by the dark rain. He quickly concludes that it is a monstrous rain, which usually happens when there is an evil spirit residing in the area. He asks Han if she notices something strange with the dark rain yesterday. Han tells him that she saw a skull-like block of ice that fell on her windshield. Jung is now sure that it is indeed a monstrous rain. All of a sudden, they notice a nearby crow that wasn't there earlier. Soon, the two of them run to the nearby house due to a swarm of crows attacking them. Fortunately, due to his expertise in Buddhist research, Jung takes a bag of salt and spills its content on top of a table, as well as creating a boundary around it. There, he writes an inscription to ward off the crows because they are brought by the evil spirit to attack them. The inscription works, although it means that both Han and Jung cannot move outside of the table. Jung gets a call from the monks, informing him that the accursed Buddha's blindfold has been removed. Furthermore, anyone who looks at it directly in the eyes will have darkness in their hearts, resulting in hating other people around them. Eventually, because they need to rescue their loved ones, Han and Jung have no choice but to leave the comfort of their hiding place. They run toward their car. Jung decides to write another inscription on the hood of their car to grant them protection. After some difficulty fighting off the swarm of crows, Jung manages to write the protective inscription, thereby stopping the crows' attacks. As such, Han and Jung drive away safely. Back at the county office, a zombified woman uses her head to shatter one of the building's glass doors. Showing a glimpse of how unsafe they really are inside the building, doubts begin to form in the survivors' minds regarding their rescue. Governor Kwon still believes that the police chief will come to save them all, causing Kwak to comment on how naive the governor is. He even believes that Do-kyung's mother is already dead due to the danger of the outside world. Meanwhile, Lee continues to suffer from her vivid hallucinations. The breaking point for Lee is when she sees her daughter being dragged away by the truck driver. The sight of this is enough to shatter Lee's sanity. As such, Lee finally succumbs to the effect of the Buddha's curse. With her eyes becoming cloudy, she turns feral and quickly attacks the guard assigned by Kwak. She then escapes from her ropes and runs toward the main hall of the building where the rest of the survivors are gathered. Just as she is about to kill the governor, Kwak comes out of nowhere and kicks her. Do-kyung also comes in, but he restrains Lee instead, attempting to revert her into her conscious state. Lee quickly overpowers him and tries to choke him to death, but Kwak hits her with a steel chair. When Lee utters the words "kill me," Kwak is willing to comply with her wishes. Fortunately, Do-kyung stops him from doing so, even though he gets beat up by his former friend. Kwak eventually stops his relentless assault after realizing that Do-kyung will not stop protecting her. He laughs instead due to the absurdity of the situation. Meanwhile, Han and Jung are driving through the foggy town when the police chief spots a body on the street. She quickly gets out of the car despite Jung's warning. After a brief check, she gets back inside the car, telling Jung that the body in the street used to be their youngest policeman. Much later, they encounter another policeman whose eyes are cloudy. Armed with a revolver, the policeman threatens Han, who wants to calm him down. Upon restraining the policeman, Han continues to persuade him to recognize her, but he is no longer conscious of his actions. The policeman escapes from her hold and tackles her into the nearby grassy roadside, where he proceeds to choke her. Jung finally comes to her rescue and takes her back immediately inside their car. As they drive away, the policeman fires at them and misses. Han cannot believe that a trusted ally could transform into a monster just because of a single cursed Buddha statue. Meanwhile, the situation inside the county state is becoming more intense. The tied-up survivors all head out of their room, pleading to be let go. A bus driver suggests that they should all head out and reach his bus to escape the foggy town. Here, Kwok offers his idea to use some of the tied-up survivors as bait. The governor steps in and agrees with his idea, telling the townspeople to only use the dangerous ones. In his mind, even if they die outside, they will not be responsible for their deaths. The tied-up survivors all break down to tears as they hear their fates. Do-kyung tries to convince everyone that this is just the same as killing them, even if indirectly. Kwok tells him to shut up, but Do-kyung doesn't listen to him. As such, the two former friends fight each other again. This time, however, Do-kyung manages to charge toward Kwok, causing him to hit his back on the tinted glass that protects the Buddha statue. For this reason, the tinted glass breaks, thereby showing the accursed Buddha's eyes to everyone. Since they have no idea that it is the cause of the townspeople's insanity, they do not avert their eyes from its gaze. Outside the building, an old woman with cloudy eyes is throwing fuel into the building's air conditioners and lighting it on fire, eventually resulting in an explosion that rattles the whole county office. Seeing the fire forming behind the statue, Kwok regains a moment of clarity. He immediately tells the survivors to remove the barricade at the entryway and run toward the bus. However, they also drag the tied-up survivors back to the detainment room because they still believe that they are infected by a virus. As this happens, Kwok slowly approaches Do-kyung and takes out his switchblade. But instead of finishing his former friend's life as revenge, he drops it beside Do-kyung, telling him that their story ends there. It is his way of saying to his former friend to take care of himself. However, upon holding the switchblade, Do-kyung's eyes become cloudy as well due to looking straight at the Buddha's eyes earlier. At this point, the rest of the survivors form a human chain and cautiously tread within the fog to reach the bus. Along the way, some of them get attacked by the zombified townspeople. Finally, they reach the bus. As the bus driver starts the vehicle, the bus parting music also turns on, making the passengers happy and hopeful. However, the bus driver's eyes are becoming cloudy, as well as the governor's eyes. Meanwhile, Han and Jung get a call from the monks. The monks instruct them to cover the cursed Buddha's eyes and etch the Tibetan word for heart in its stone. The hard part for them, however, is that they have to do this task with their eyes closed or covered so that they will not see the Buddha's eyes. While they do this, the monks will gather and continuously chant a mantra until the curse is lifted from the county. With this instruction, Jung immediately stops the car and dips some papers in a puddle of black water. After briefly doing this with Han, they continue their journey. Eventually, the bus driver loses control of his bus after it almost hits Han and Jung's upcoming car. Luckily, Kwok diverts the bus direction, preventing a collision. With the crashed bus nearby, Han wants to get out of the car to save the people inside. Jung prevents her from doing so, reminding her of the Buddha's curse effects. As such, they drive away to get to the county station. Kwok later succumbs to the curse as well, and all hell breaks loose inside the crashed bus. Meanwhile, Han and Jung later arrive at the building by driving right through the entryway, stopping right in front of the haunted Buddha statue. However, Han unluckily gazes directly at the cursed Buddha's eyes. They get out of the car to do what they need to do, with Han reuniting with her son and Jung plastering the blotted papers onto the Buddha's eyes. Han approaches her already cursed son and tries to talk him out of his insanity. Do-kyung attacks his mother with a switchblade. Due to her experience, Han manages to restrain her son. However, as a consequence of looking straight into the Buddha's eyes earlier, her eyes also become clouded, thereby inhibiting her reasoning. She points a gun at her son's head. Fortunately, Jung has just finished covering the Buddha's eyes. As everyone returns to their conscious state, Han quickly drops her gun and collapses from exhaustion. After finishing his task, Jung quickly goes to Lee. Seeing Lee in such a weakened state is enough to reduce Jung into tears. All of a sudden, the sprinklers are triggered by the fire inside the building. Because of this, the papers covering the Buddha's eyes slowly slip away, rekindling the curse's effects. Unknowingly, Jung sees the Buddha's eyes when he comes back to check on the cover. As a result, Han and Do-kyung resume their fight, with Do-kyung gaining the upper hand this time. Also, Jung sees the love of his life back on her feet as if she has no injury whatsoever. Lee admonishes him for being too late. But it turns out to just be a hallucination as Lee transforms into a terrifying giant spider. The real Lee later wakes up to find a collapsed Jung on the floor. She tries waking him up but to no avail as he is under the Buddha's curse. The monks, who are originally on a call with Jung, instruct Lee to finish the task of covering the haunted Buddha statue so that the curse can finally end. Without a second left to waste, Lee takes the initiative, taking out the Buddha's original blindfold of paper cloth with inscriptions from its protective glass. She then wraps it around her eyes as she proceeds to the haunted Buddha. Meanwhile, Jung witnesses his daughter inside his hallucination. He cries as he grips the doll that his daughter used to own, which is the same doll that now represents his daughter. Eventually, Jung stands up again, but he is now under the control of the curse. He approaches Lee, who is just employing the finishing touch on the Buddha statue, which is the Tibetan word that needs to be written. Immediately, he chokes Lee before she can write the Tibetan word. While choking her, he reminisces about their time together as husband and wife with their beloved daughter. Amidst their scuffle, they accidentally knock over their daughter's doll, causing it to drop toward the Buddha statue. During the doll's fall, Jung's eyes return to normal. He also hears his daughter's voice saying goodbye. Upon touching its surface, the Buddha statue suddenly falls due to some unknown weight. A fiery blaze also swallows the statue as it hits the ground. All of a sudden, the curse has been lifted from its victims. Do-kyung quickly realizes that the woman beside him is his dear mother. He immediately checks on her health. With the curse now gone, the mother and son share an embrace that is full of love and tears. Outside, the thick fog that is covering the town slowly dissipates. The sun is also peaking once again as the dark skies vanish out of view. Meanwhile, Lee and Jung stare at the hole where both the fallen Buddha statue and their daughter's doll reside. The husband and wife tell each other that they both heard their daughter's voice earlier. As such, the two reconcile with a tearful hug. At the same time, their daughter's doll, which sits on the haunted Buddha's cheeks, slowly evaporates into nothingness. With the doll's disappearance, the Buddha statue finally breaks into pieces, thereby confirming that the evil spirit has been vanquished. After the dark events that unfolded in Jinyang-gun, the monks discuss how the evil spirit was defeated. Because they cannot find the doll, they believe that it is a good spirit that managed to overcome the evil one, as well as fix both Lee and Jung's strained relationship. On the same note, they discuss how the husband and wife are currently in Tibet to continue their Buddhist research together. Lee and Jung now also have a YouTube channel that documents places that have been similarly cursed. A year later, Lee and Jung head to a disheveled and abandoned shed in the countryside to investigate what they believe to be a cursed object. Upon checking it, they see a mummified red-colored corpse of some sort. Since this is now their job, the corpse opens another mystery that they have to solve.